Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another of our Introduction to Your New Borescope sessions. My name is Megan Friedrichs, and I'm the Services Product Manager here at Waygate. Today I'm joined by Isaiah Odom, who is our Inspection Works Solution Architect, and Jeff Webster, who is our North America Technical Sales Manager. Today we will be covering workflow automation and data management, focusing on inspection works, analytics, and all of that. So I will hand it over to Isaiah. Oh, sorry, couple last things. Feel free to ask questions in the chat and we'll periodically be answering those. And the recording and slides will be shared after the call. So thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, Megan. So she covered it. So we're going to be talking today about workflow automation and data management. That's a nice fancy way of basically saying MDI, menu directed inspection, and inspection works. Hopefully you've heard of both of those before, but if not, you'll get fully up to speed in this session. So to give you a high level overview before we get into it, I guess, by the way, what we're going to cover today is mostly going to be hands-on demos. I'll walk you through how to do everything. We're just going over introductions here at the beginning. So Inspection Works is our cloud-based data management solution that's fully integrated with the MVIQ borescopes and the Mentor Flex borescopes. Essentially, what it allows you to do is synchronize your inspections as you're performing them to the cloud, so that you can store your data, or as you're performing the inspection, you could have maybe say an engineering team or some other team reviewing the data, making annotations, making measurements, taking a look at things, and then generating reports as well. Inspection Works is very deeply integrated with MDI, or menu directed inspection. So if you're not familiar with menu directed inspection, this is the ability to create an inspection template, or basically a hierarchy based template for your inspection. So if we use a jet engine, for example, you could have individual sections for the different modules like LPC, HPC, combustor, HPT, LPT, and then within those you can have all the different stages. And within those, you can have the blade leading edge, blade trailing edge, and it allows you to create a full template for what it is you're inspecting. This can be deployed on the Borescope to help you with your inspection, and it's fully integrated with Inspection Works so that when you review your inspections after the fact, you've got that entire hierarchy as well. So the workflow that we're going to cover today is pre-inspection, creating MDIs, so creating menu-directed inspections. So we'll cover how to download the MDI builder onto your computer, how to create these templates, and all the different features there, and then how to deploy these to an Inspection Works store. And now from the Borescope, we will download these from the Inspection Works store. We will do an inspection and push the data to Inspection Works. And then we'll get on the web browser, we'll take a look at the Inspection Works platform, and we'll review, analyze the data, generate reports, and share it with some different people. So that is an overview of what it is we're going to cover today. So give me just a second, and we will actually get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is download the MDI builder. So in order to get this, go to inspectionworks.com on your web browser. And then at the top, you'll see a drop down that says products. And then you can go to Inspection Works store. So when you click this link, you don't need a login to get here. This is the Inspection Works public store. So this is where we host a number of applications, softwares, training documents, and things like that you can access. And this is where we store the MDI builder software as well. So you see at the very top, there's this line that says software. You can click see more, or you can just use the filters at the top. So let's go categories, software, modalities, RVI. And here's that application. So you see that big green M, that's how you know it's the right application. Just click on that. and then there's a nice green download button here. So when you download this, that will give you the installer for the MDI builder for your PC. It's about 130 megabytes, so just keep that in mind. And I think you might need admin privileges to install this on your PC. And let's take a step back. So I've already got this installed on my computer, so I don't need to pull this up right now. But I want to show you something else before we get into it. So you can create your own MDIs from scratch, but we do have a lot of MDIs available for you that you can either use immediately or you can open them in the MDI builder and modify them. So if you change from software, change the category from software to applications, you see there's a number of MDI templates that we've created. So we've got some different Trent engines, CFM56, G90s, Gen X. I believe we've got LEAP engines in there as well. So we've got a number of different MDIs that you can download. And what I like to do is if there's an MDI here for an engine that I'm going to inspect, I'll just download it and use it. If I want to make some slight modifications, I can open it in the MDI builder and make whatever changes I want. Or if I want to do something for a new engine, but there's a similar engine in here, I can use that as a starting point. So it kind of just helps you with avoiding starting from scratch. So we've covered downloading the software and downloading the MDIs. So now let's actually get into the application itself. So this right here is the MDI builder. So once you've downloaded it, here, let me close out of these slides so I can see my menu. Here we go. So once you've downloaded it, you can just go to your start menu, type MDI, you'll see MDI builder, and then you just click this to open the application. And you'll be presented with some options here when you first open it. So you can either start from a template that we've created, or you can create a blank one. So let's start with a template. Let's call this inspection example engine. And let's select the turbine template and say confirm. So just like this, now you have an example template that you can modify. So we've got an engine with a fan, an LPC, HPC, combustor, HPT, and LPT. Within each of these sections, you have a number of stages. Within those stages, you have the blades, and then you've got some different views. So leading edge, trailing edge, root tip, etc. So this is kind of a nice starting point that you can use. Similarly, if there's an exact engine that you see in that inspection work store, so for example, you download this Trent 700 or a LEAP engine, you can open that and modify it as well. So if you go to File in the top left, click Open. We won't save changes. Let's go to my desktop. I have a LEAP 1B demo MDI that I downloaded from the public store. Let's open that. And for example, let's say I have a LEAP 1B MDI and I want to make a LEAP 1A MDI. I can kind of use this as a good starting point. So let's jump through some of the features that you'll see in MDI Builder. So the first thing you have is a hierarchy. So we covered that. For example, we have the LPC, stages, blades, views. And then at the top, you see the inspection details. So this is all of the metadata that you would want to capture with your inspection. So this metadata could be, for example, in this one, we have engine serial number, customer, engine type. If you'd like, maybe depending on your workflow, it would make sense to have a work order number or something like that. Basically, if you think of all of your inspections sitting in a database, these are the columns that you would want to sort by. Let's sort by the different serial numbers. Let's sort by the different engine types, et cetera, et cetera. And if you click Manage, right here in the top right, you can click Manage. and you can add additional fields as well. So let's add one called site. And on the right, you see you can either make it required or not. So that means the inspector, if it's required, the inspector has to fill this out before starting the inspection. If it's not required, they're presented with the option, but they can skip over it if they need to. You can turn on annotate, which means this field, whatever the user fills in, will actually be hovering at the top of the image every time they capture a picture. So for example, if I turned on annotate for engine serial number, every picture I take in my inspection will have the engine serial number on the image. So that's, just an option that you have available. Then you can change the type of input for each of these. So for the site, for example, I could either have a text input where I just type in the name of the site that I'm in. But if I want to make it a little bit more standardized across all of my sites, just to make sure everyone's putting in the same name. For example, I'm based out of Houston, Texas. Maybe some people could write it as Houston. Some could write it as HTX. Some could write it as HOU. So if you want to make sure that's standardized, let's actually change this to a single select. And let's just put Houston. So that way, no matter who is doing the inspection, everyone uses the same naming conventions. Let's add a couple of other sites as well. And then you can have this as a single select, or it wouldn't make sense for the site, but you could have for some other one, you could have it as a multi-select as well. So same idea, you have a list of options, but you can select multiple. So that's the inspection details. The next item is the inspection point labels. So this is essentially giving a name to every level in your inspection or in your hierarchy here. So for example, when we look at LPC, this is labeled as the module. When we look at stage 2, it's labeled as a component. When we look at blade leading edge, this is marked as location. So if we click manage right here on inspection point labels, you can see you can just give a name to all the different levels. So that way, when you generate a report and it shows LPC stage 2 blade leading edge, it also has the name of that level as well, just for some added clarification. The next thing that we have available is classification. So this is the ability to add observations or maybe defects from a predetermined list to different sections in your MDI. So for example, let's look at the HPT here. If we click manage on classification, you can see there's a couple of different sets that I've already created. So I created a set of defects that could be in an HPT. You see we've got things like burns, burrs, chips, cracks, dents, deposits, things like that. In order to create a new list of defects, let's make a list. I'm calling this defects, and then under classification, let's add a new classification. So let's say crack, nick, dent. So that's my list. I can click apply. So once you've created a list, you can assign that list to certain subnodes. So let's say I want to assign that to everything in the HPT. So I make sure I have HPT selected right here. And then in classification, we'll click assign classification set to all subnodes. Let's select defects, apply. Then when I get down to the bottom node, so let's go to blade leading edge, you see that classification list, defects. So that means when I'm doing my inspection and I get to the HPT, any picture that I capture in the HPT, I will have the option to select from that list of defects. So that way you can really standardize the way that people are naming defects, and you can capture it in metadata as well, so you can reference it later in InspectionWorks and sort through it. So the next two items are reference material and overlays. So I've created another MDI that we can look at for an example here. But reference material is a section where you can add either documents or images to store with your inspection. So for example, you can add it for individual sections. So I could say, when I'm in the HPT, I want to have a reference to a document, maybe about how to do an HPT inspection or something like that. So I could attach a PDF here, so the user is presented with this PDF on the Borescope while they're doing the inspection. And we'll take a look at that here in just a sec. Overlays are similar, but instead of having to open it up as a reference, you can actually overlay an image on top of the Borescope live feed. And the way that this is used today is to make sure that inspectors get the right angle and the right view of what it is they're inspecting. So I will walk you through how to build these and what that looks like on the Borescope as well. The last thing here is analytics. So you can enable analytics on individual sections. So if you're familiar with the analytics that we have available on the Borescope, we have the gas power assist model, which is an assisted defect recognition model. Basically, that puts boxes around defects that are recognized on the Borescope screen. And then we also have the blade counter algorithm. So that counts the blades as they pass through. So as you're turning through a stage, it counts from 1 all the way to the end. And if you turn forwards and backwards, it counts the blades. So what you can do here is assign these analytics to these nodes. So you could say, once I get to the HPT, I want it to turn on gas power assist 5.0, and I want it to turn on blade counter 2.0. So those analytics models will start running when you get to that section. So that's an overview of the features here. So let's take a look at one that I've created for this demo. So I'll click File, Open. No, I'm not going to save any of these changes. Let's go to this verification block demo. So hopefully everyone that has a measurement tip or a 3D phase measurement tip with their Borescope is familiar with the verification block. I've created an MDI here around that verification block in particular. So if you look on one side of the verification block, you've got the forward tip hole, and then you've got the side view tip hole for the green and the blue tips. I've created a list of details that are requested at the beginning of the inspection. So we've got the serial number, which is a text input. We have the type. So this is actually the type of the verification block. And I've listed all the different models of verification block that the user can select from. And then the inspector. So I would just put my name here. For classification, there's no defects in the verification block. It's actually designed to be that way in particular. But just for the sake of example, I've added an example set of defects. I've just called it defect 1, defect 2, defect 3, so we can take a look at how that works. For reference material, if you click Manage here, you can add a PDF document. So I've actually added our measurement handbook. So if we take a look right here, I've got a folder. I just have this PDF of the Real 3D measurement handbook. And what I want to do is I want to go to this page 8 when I'm in my inspection. So I'm looking in the verification block. I want to be able to reference to make sure I'm using the right type of measurement. So I can attach this document and I can say, take me to page 8 in the reference material. So I've added this document. And when I say reference material, I can select. So I have to click this this radio button, check yes, I want this PDF included, and it'll take me to page 8. I've also included 2 example images for this forward view section. These example images show you a good angle, a good example angle of what it is we're looking at in the verification block. So I'll show you how we pull those up. And then the last thing I want to go into is the overlays, and I'll show you how these work. So if you want to create an overlay, let's pull up an example here. Here is a PowerPoint, and this is what we use generally to build overlays. So what you would do is you would just drag in a picture from your Borescope. So for example, here's a blade. We've got a couple of areas that we want lined up. So I believe, sorry, I'm not an expert on the engine, but I believe this is leading edge and this is the split line right here. And basically what you would do is take this image into PowerPoint, and then you would add some lines around the areas of interest that you want lined up. So basically you would be telling an inspector, I want the leading edge between these 2 blue lines. I want the split line between these 2 yellow lines. So that way, when they do the inspection, they see these lines on the screen and they know if I position this between the lines, then I have the right view. So you draw the lines on the screen. It's pretty easy. You just add a line with PowerPoint. You can change the weight. You can make it dashed. You can change the color, for example. So you can just add lines on the image, and then you will delete the image. So that way you just have the lines. And one other thing to note, since we're going to make this a transparent PNG, we will add a shape that covers the entire screen. And then we will just change the fill to no fill, change the outline to no outline. So basically you have lines on the screen and you have a fully transparent background. And then you'll select everything. So select one of these lines and do Control A. Everything is selected. And then you will do, Control A, right click, save as picture. And then you'll save this as a PNG, and that's what you'll use for your overlay. So I created one for the verification block. So I took a picture inside of my verification block with my forward view 3D phase measurement tip. And then I drew these lines around it. So I put these yellow lines, basically giving you a reference of the orientation and how close I want the tip when I take a picture. And then I also added a copy of the image right here so that in my overlay, it also shows me a reference picture that I can use beyond just the lines to show me my orientation. And I made a copy of this. I just deleted the background and I added the transparent background. Select this, Control A, save as picture. You'll just save it as a PNG. So this is the PNG picture that I saved. See that? It's got the outlines and it's got this example picture. So in my MDI builder, in overlays, I've clicked manage and I've added this overlay here. So desktop, this image, this PNG image right here. You see it pulled up. And then in the section where you want it to appear, so I want this to show when I'm in the verification block in the forward view section. So I click on that, overlays, select, and you just click is included and apply. And you'll see this overlay block right here. So just remember what we did here. This is how you create the MDIs themselves. And of course, you're going to want to save this. And this will save as a .mdz file. And this is what you will load onto the Borescope. So in order to deploy this to the Borescope, we're actually going to add this to the inspection works private store for your Inspection Works account. And then we can sign in on the Borescope and we can download it directly to the Borescope. So we'll jump away from MDI for just a second to show you how to create your Inspection Works account, and then we will download this MDI onto the Borescope. So in order to do this, we're going to go back to inspectionworks.com, and then in the top right, there's this green button that says sign up. And anyone can create a free account for Inspection Works. The only limitations here, you can only create one free account per person, and I think there's a limit of 5 users per account. So you can share data internally within your organization with up to 5 users. And there's a storage limit of 50 gigabytes. So you can upload a good amount of images and some video as well. But once you hit that 50 gigabyte limit, you would need to upgrade your account to a business account in order to add more. So the limitations here are storage and number of users, and there's a couple of features that are not enabled on the free account as well compared to a paid account. When you click sign up, put in your email address, put in your first name, last name, agree to the terms, and then whenever you click next, it'll just ask you to give a name to your account. I have already created my free account, so I'm not going to click next here. But the only thing that I do want to note is once you've created your Inspection Works account, if you are not internal to Baker Hughes, you will need to do a short registration process in order to use our Okta SSO. So what that looks like, once you finish this process, you will get an automatic email saying that you have created a free account, and there will be a link in here. Let me zoom in. There will be a link in here that says to log in, create an account with Baker Hughes. So you will want to click this link, and it will have a couple of steps for you to just set up an email address and a password and 2-factor authentication, and I think security question for account recovery if needed. So you'll go through that process, and once you've done that, you can sign into your Inspection Works account. And to sign in, you go to inspectionworks.com, and then you already signed up, so you click the white button, sign in. And I'm already signed in, but you'll just enter your username and password and then select your account. So this is my account that I've created. I've named it very creatively Isaiah account. And when you first sign in, you'll see the home dashboard, which tells you some things about your license, the amount of storage you've used, the number of inspections you've added. But right now, we're just going to go to the store. So we will go to store on the left. We already discussed the public store. Now we're going to look at the private store. So the private store works the same way as the public store. The only major difference being that this is internal to your account. So I have a free account. I can have 5 people on it. Everything I add to this store, I can distribute to those 5 people. So maybe you could have someone from the engineering team creating MDIs. They add them to the private store for your account. And then you've got inspectors that have access to this account. They can download the MDIs straight onto the Borescope from here. So let's add a new MDI here so we can download it on the Borescope. We'll click Add New in the top. And then for an MDI, we will select Application. And let's give this an example. I've already uploaded this, so let's call it Verification Block Demo 2. And then select Add Type. Select Type MDI. Modality, we will select RVI. Product, since it's an MDI, we're going to select Mentor Flex and Mentor Visual IQ. And I'm going to uncheck others because these are the 2 products that this can work on. for company, just call it Isaiah. We'll pretend this is my own company. Intended asset, let's call this verification block. Language, English, application description, let's call this example MDI. So once you've filled out these fields, you can click save. And once you've clicked save, then you have the option to upload a thumbnail image. So at the bottom, you can click this green upload button. And then I can select a photo. So I've got a nice photo of my verification block. And I can add this image. So from here, I click publish. So what this does is it creates an application. And then inside of this application, this is where you add your MDI. The reason that it's 2 steps is because once you've created this application, you can add as many versions of this MDI as you want. So over time, if you make modifications to your MDI and need to publish new versions out to your inspection team, you can do that from here. So let's click add new in the top right to add a version. We'll click full, no dependencies, application version number, let's say 1.0. You need a decimal with the version number, so keep that in mind. You have 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. You can do 1.1, 1.2. Endless possibilities. Compatible with, that's not required. I'm going to skip that. Release date. You can click this little calendar, and it opens up a date picker. Let's just select today, and then unclick this checksum included. There's not a checksum in the MDI, so make sure you unclick that. And then we'll click save. Once we've saved this, then I can upload the package. So same idea. I click save. I click this upload button. Let's find my .mdz file, verification block demo.mdz. Wait for it to upload. And then you click publish. Boom. Version 1.0 available on the store. So now that this is pushed to the store, we're going to download this on the Borescope. So right here, you should be able to see my Borescope screen. There's just a couple of settings I want to take a look at first before we get there. So you need to be on the Wi-Fi in order to download these MDIs. So you'll just go to the menu, go to settings, and then go to connectivity, and then in available networks, you can select your network from here. So select your network. If there's a password required, then you'll just have to put in a password. All right, once you're there, now let's go to the private store. So main menu, go to store at the bottom right. If you go to the public store, you can download all those MDIs that I showed earlier in our public store. Pretty nice, but let's go to the private store. And then here, you'll be prompted to sign into InspectionWorks. So these are the details that you just created with that registration process. So you got 2 options here. You can either enter your email address on the screen, or you can scan this QR code with your phone and do the sign-in process through your phone. And I prefer to do the phone because it's a lot easier for me to type on my phone versus on the Borescope screen. So I'm going to do that right now. I've scanned the code with my phone, and you will not be able to see what I'm doing because it is on my phone. So give me just a second. I entered my email address, entering my password. I have 2-factor authentication set up, so I'm going to enter a code from my text messages. And give me 1 sec. I did something wrong. Takes me a second to type these things out. All right, there we go. So once you've entered it on your phone, it automatically loads on the Borescope. And then you'll just enter your account name. So this is that account name that you created, or that you chose when you created your InspectionWorks free account. If you forget this, it's okay. Just go back to that automatic email that you got and it'll say the account name. So just remember it, but if you can't remember it, you can find it in your email. So this is called Isaiah account, as we saw earlier. Click done. And then here's all of the MDIs that I've created in my account that I can download. So if I want to, I can click this verification block demo and I can just click download right there and download it onto my Borescope. I've already downloaded this, so if I click download, do I want to overwrite? No, I'm not going to overwrite it. And then I can download all the other MDIs I've created in here as well. So let's take a step back and now let's actually run this MDI. Actually, one thing I want to note, before we start running this MDI, I'm going to turn on push to InspectionWorks so that as I do this inspection, the data is going to be synced to InspectionWorks, to the cloud. So let's go back to the main menu. Let's go to Insight. And since I'm already signed in on InspectionWorks, from here, all I need to do is select a folder, and then I will select, I will turn on push to IW. So let's call this IW training. And then you look in the top left, it says IW training. Cool, just remember that. So that's where I'm going to store my inspection, and then turn the switch on. And what this does is now any inspection that I do and I save in this IW training folder, that's going to get synced to my InspectionWorks account. You can kind of think of this like if you have Dropbox on your computer or OneDrive on your computer, where if you look in your file browser, you know, on the left, you've got a folder called Dropbox, and everything that you save in that folder gets pushed to Dropbox. It's the same kind of idea here. So when I do my inspection, I just want to make sure I save it in this IW training folder. All right, so we're looking at the Borescope live feed, and let's flip this switch on the side. Let's click MDI. So from here, I will start my MDI. So we'll select verification block. And then here are the fields that I created when I made my MDI. So the first one is serial number. Let's look on my verification block. What is it? It is 223817077. And the type is a 2600E inspector. That is me. Done. And then when I select my save location, just look at this in the top left. Make sure it's that same folder that you configured for push to IW. Yep, that's it. Say done. So now we're looking at the MDI that I created. Let's take a look just at the MDI builder, just because it's been a second since we were looking at it. You see we've got forward and side, and then inside we've got green and blue. Looking at this, we've got forward and side we've got green and blue. So you've got that whole hierarchy that you created. And I know it kind of seems like a lot of steps that we just covered to get this on the Borescope, but keep in mind, you only make the account once. Unless you've made any updates to the MDI, you only need to upload it and download it once. So when you go to start your inspection, generally speaking, all you need to do is sign in, turn on push to IW, and then start your MDI inspection. So it's pretty simple once you've done the initial setup. So let's look at the forward view. And now you can see that overlay that I've created. So you see the lines that I have on the screen. Again, this is just pulled from that PowerPoint that I created. That's this right here. So when I go to do my inspection, you see I'm inside the verification block. I see these lines on the screen that tell me, okay, this is how I want to line this up. So let's try to get right to a good spot. You can see I have that image in the top right that gives me a reference of how I want this to look. All right, I think that looks good enough. Let's select 3D PM capture. Let's go to measurement, point to line, and verify. That looks pretty good. So let's save this. And if you hold down the save button, you can see where you can add the classification. So that's that list of defects that I wrote. So if I click classification, I can select defect 1 or defect 2, or I could select multiple as well. Let's say defect 2. Again, there's no defect here, but this is just for the sake of example. And you can either save it regularly with this button down here, or you could save it with a flag. And that's just a nice way that you can keep track of images that you think are important that you might want to put in a report later. So let's save this with a flag. Maybe let's take one more picture here. I'll just take a regular photo, not a 3D PM picture. Again, save button, classification, let's say defect 1. Save that with a flag. So we're looking at the overlay. You can also see the reference material that we created. So if you flip this switch in the bottom right to see the additional buttons, let's go to reference material. And in here, I can see, so here's the images that I uploaded. So the example images that show me a good reference. I can look at some example images. I can also open this PDF to learn about measurements, and you see it takes me automatically to that page 8. So I can look, so I'm in a specific section of the asset that I'm inspecting. I can open up my document, get a little bit of information, and then continue my inspection. Also, you can do split screen as well if you really need to. So I could see my live feed, and then I can go through my document as well and look at these side by side. So kind of a nice feature. All right. So we've done the inspection. We can actually go to the main menu and go back to Insight. And you see where it says 4 out of 4 synced. That just confirms that every picture that I have taken so far has been synced to InspectionWorks. So let's go on my browser. Let's go back to InspectionWorks. Again, the way that you get here, go to inspectionworks.com, click sign in the top right. And once you've signed in, it'll take you here. So this is the dashboard. And then when we want to see our list of inspections, we'll go to Insight here on the left. So this is my full list of inspections that I've done. And here's that verification block inspection. So if I click on this inspection, you could see I have the hierarchy that I created in my MDI. So I can look all the way through my MDI and look at different sections of maybe an engine or whatever asset I'm inspecting. And we can see the images, we can see the videos, and if you have any additional data, you can see them in here as well. Let's take a look at one of these photos. So here's a photo that I captured. Actually, I didn't turn off the overlay. Let me show you this real quick. I forgot to show you this. So when you're positioning this, by the way, once you found a good position, you click this button right here, and it turns off the overlay. So if I like my position, I press that, and then you can get a clean image. You don't need to have the overlay in your photo. Let's save this with defect 2. And you'll see this thing spinning in the top. That means it's syncing to InspectionWorks. Once it stops spinning, that means it's done. So right here, let's actually refresh this page. And yeah, you can see that new image that I captured with defect 2, and it doesn't have the overlay on the picture. So when you are looking at these pictures in InspectionWorks, you've got some details over here on the right to give you some information about the image. In fact, let me jump to the one with the measurement so you can see some additional details. So we've got the date that it was modified, who did the inspection, so who added the image. That's me, that's my name, that's the date. Here's some information about the device and the image itself. If you did a 3D phase measurement, it's actually got that data stored. So it tells you the type, 3D PM. It tells me the type of measurement that I did. So here's a point to line measurement, and it's got that information over here. And then it's got some additional information about the MDI. So it's got the classification, it's got the model, 6.1 millimeter that I used. We've got the inspection level right here. So that's if we look at the MDI, that's this inspection level. So the inspection point labels, it's inspection level 1. So that's what you're seeing right here. If you want to, you can actually move the image around in the structure. So if I click edit here, let's say I took a picture in the wrong place, we can move it to the side view blue section. So I can move where it is in the MDI as well. Here you can see your classifications. So this is your list of defects. So I have defect 2 is what I chose. If I want to, I can add additional defects from this list. So this is a good way to keep track. You can see, okay, here's all my images from the inspection. Maybe I just want to see all of the cracks. This information allows you to do that. The next item is annotations. So this is where you can add annotations on top of the image if you'd like. The next is comments. So these are comments that are stored alongside the image, and these also can show up in the final report if you'd like. So let's put a comment on here. This is a comment. Very, very detailed. So this will show up in the report. So if you have maybe an image that you've captured, you found a crack on a blade, you can write a comment maybe with some sort of reference to the manual or something like that. And then you can notify people as well. So if I have some other people that have been added to my InspectionWorks account, I can notify them from here. So I could say, like, put in maybe Jeff Webster's email address right here and add some sort of a note. Say, hey, take a look at this. And once I've put in his email address, I can just send him a notification. So if he has access to this InspectionWorks account, he can just click a link and pull this up. So I say, hey, I've got a crack on a blade right here. It's within limits, but I don't know. Take a look at this. Jeff, you're the expert. He takes a look at it and he can just look at it right here. And he could, if he wants to, just add a follow-up comment as well. This image was flagged, so you can flag or unflag images on here. So when I save that image with the flag on the Borescope, that all comes into InspectionWorks. I can add an image directly to the report from here. So if I want this to be in my final report, I can just click add to report. Something that's kind of cool here. So we've got list of images with the inspection point details and the classifications. If I want to just filter from here, I can as well. So let's say I just want to see images with defect 2. Click apply. And then it only shows me images with that defect. So I could say, I just want to see the cracks in my inspection. I just want to see the dent. I can do that. Or I can add multiple of these at the same time. So I could say, I only want to see the defect 2 that was flagged. I can apply. There's this. And you can even filter. I just want to see with comments as well. See, I added a comment here, a flag. It's defect 2. So you have the ability to really narrow this down. So that is, I think that's most of it for reviewing the data in your free account. The next item is the metadata. So these are all of the high-level details that you fill out for your inspection. So let's focus on these device inspection details. So these are the fields, so serial number, type, and inspector. If you recall, these are the fields that I filled out here at the top of my MDI. So if I added 5, 8 other fields here, they would show up in here. And then we have the supporting data. So the supporting data is all of the additional data that you want stored with your inspection report, all the data that's not the images itself. So this is customizable. There's a standard set of fields. So this is the standard set of fields that you would see on your free Inspection Works account. But if you had a paid Inspection Works account, we can completely customize the information that you want on this page. And then similarly, we can completely customize the way that your inspection report looks as well. So in this example, we've got an inspection summary. So let's say on forward view, yes, it was serviceable. I can have my observation. Maybe I can add another comment, side view, green section. So for example, if you were looking at an engine, it would say an HPT stage 1 blade leading edge. We found damage. No, it was not serviceable. And then here's my observation. I can add discrepancies and corrective actions. I could say example, blend repair. Let's add a comment in here. I can also have a list right here. Basically, if there's more than one person responsible for the Borescope inspection, I could have a list here. So I could say Isaiah was responsible for forward. I could say Jeff was responsible for the side view. And then I could say who approved it. Say Isaiah's boss approved this. And then the reference, let's maybe just put in the AMM that I used for this inspection. Let's click save. Don't forget to click save to save these changes. And then from here, we can generate our inspection report. So there's a couple of things here. So the first thing is the report name. So the report name by default is the name of the inspection, which is your MDI type dash serial number. So we can just leave that. You can change the resolution of the images in your document. And then you can change the report format. So the format here, you can choose between a PDF or a Word document. You can also include or not include an inspection summary table. So sure, let's include this summary table. And then you get to the image selection settings. So you can either just include all of the images or a custom selection. Custom selection, if I added an image to my report, so remember at the top when I was going through the images, there was an add to report option. So it's got this one image that I added on here in the report. So I can go through, I can individually add other images, or I can use some filters. So I can say, let's just include all of the flagged images. So all the ones with the flag are included, and all the images with comments. So this one has a comment, and that's included as well. But let's go ahead and just add all 4 pictures. So I'll select all images. And let's output the measurements in inches. Generate report. And now I have a PDF report. So this is the generic standard Waygate inspection report template that you get with your free Inspection Works account. It's a pretty powerful report template as it is, but if you upgrade to a business account, so a paid Inspection Works account, we will customize this report template with you. So we'll add your branding. We could change completely the way that it's laid out. If you want more information included, if you want the pictures or everything organized in a different way, we can do that, you know. So if you have maybe an example report that you already create today with your team, once you upgrade to a paid account, just shoot us a copy of that report if you're allowed to, and we can evaluate it, and most likely we can create a version of that. So we've got a cover page here with some information, serial number, inspection date, some of the details that we added. So approved by, reported by, reference, date, all in the footer. Here's those high-level details that I filled out. So type and inspector. We've got an inspection summary table that shows, I had flagged images, 2 flagged images in here. And then we get down to the actual images themselves. So we've got the images, it's got the name of the file for reference, it's got the inspection level details here. So for example, if I was in HPT stage 1 blade leading edge, it would say, module HPT component stage 1 blade view leading edge, right? If there's measurements, the measurements are included in here as well. So I did a point to line measurement, which you can see on the image. And you can see the measurements right here on the right as well. If there were any comments added in the report or on the image, you'll see these in the report. So here's that comment that I added. I said, this is a comment, and that's included in the report. And here's the rest of the images I captured. Here's the discrepancies and corrective actions table that I filled out. And here's that list of if there was multiple inspectors doing the inspection. So that's what you get in the free account report. Again, we can completely customize this in a paid account, but I think it's very usable as is. And if you want to just add your logo to it, you can just generate it as a Word document and then do all images, generate report. And you can download this Word document here and you can add your logo or add additional comments and make changes if you'd like to. Once you have finished your inspection here, one of the options that we have is to verify an inspection. So there's this button here at the top that says to be verified. You can click that and mark an inspection as verified and lock it. So if an inspection is verified and locked, that means you can view it, but you can't change it. So I can't go in, I can't add or delete images, I can't flag or make additional comments or change anything. That's basically a sealed record. So that's an option that you have available. Let's jump back to my list of inspections. So this is the database view where you can see all of your inspections that you've performed over time. And from here, you also have the ability to filter these columns. So any of these fields that you added in your MDI, so I have serial number, type, inspector, I can create columns for these. So if I click this columns down arrow, I can select either the standard columns or I can select from these device inspection details. So that's all these MDI details. So let's select inspector. I think that's it. I've already got type on there. If I click apply, you see I've got my inspector, got my name right here. So that way you can actually filter through these. So I want to see, let's see, maybe only types, verification block 2600E. And then it filters like that. So you can sort through all of your inspections. So you could say, I want to see all of my CFM56 inspections that were performed at my Houston site. You have that option here. And if you click this red circle, it clears all of your filters. You also can view, so this is everyone's inspections in your account that have been published. If you click all inspections at the top, you can click my inspections, and then it only shows the inspections that you have uploaded. And then you also have the ability to upload your inspections as a draft. So that way only you can see the inspection until you've published it. So if you want to do an inspection on your Borescope, push it to Inspection Works, but you still want to review it and make some final changes before it's published for everyone to see, you can do that. So there's actually a setting. If we jump back to my Borescope, if I go to Settings, scroll down to Inspection Works, you see my inspection upload mode is set to publish. What that means is once I've done my inspection, everyone in my account can see it. If I have it set to draft, then it's going to be uploaded in a draft state. And what that looks like is, let's take one of these inspections. Let's click the 3 dots at the top, and I'll actually change this back to a draft. So if I go to my inspections, or if I go to all inspections, you won't see it on this list anymore. I would need to go to my inspections, drafts, and then I can see it. So maybe I can review this. I can make any of the final changes that I want. And then once I'm done, I can click this green publish button. Yeah, now everyone in my account can see it. All right. So we covered creating MDIs, doing an MDI inspection, uploading the data to Inspection Works, reviewing it, and generating reports. A few other things that I do want to share with you. Number one, if you created the account, you will automatically be an admin. So your user role right here will be admin. An admin is only admins are able to upload things to the private store. So upload MDIs to the private store and add additional users to the account. So if I click admin right here, this tab on the left-hand side, I can add additional users to my account. So if I click add user, I can put in an email address and I can select a role for the user. So I can add someone as an admin as well, or generally I would just give someone supervisor access. And then you can add a user to the account. You can also add workspaces. So if you have different groups that you want to share data with, let's say I want to share data with my engineering team. I can create a workspace for my engineering team right here. And then if I go back to Insight, once I finish my inspection, I can click these 3 dots and do share with engineering. So now when someone signs in from that engineering team, they can only see inspections that have been shared with them. So the way you would do that is go back to your admin tab, select that workspace for engineering, and then you can add a user only to this workspace. All right, that covers a lot of the features. I think there were just a few other things that I wanted to show you around a paid Inspection Works account. So I have another example inspection over here that I have in a separate account. So this is not the free account that I created anymore. This is my Waygate demo account, which is a paid Inspection Works account. You actually have the ability to remeasure images. So if I am looking at an inspection here, let's take a look at this image right here. And this is a 3D phase measurement picture. So I can click this checkbox next to the photo and I can open this in Inspection Manager. So while this is loading, I think some of you might be familiar with the Inspection Manager application. Inspection Manager is very similar to the software you see on the Borescope, except it works on a PC. So it's a Windows program that you can download, and it allows you to open up images and edit measurements. If it's a 3D phase measurement picture, you can do additional measurements on the image. So we have created something in InspectionWorks where that application runs in the cloud. So what you're seeing right now is it's spinning up a cloud instance in order to review that data. So you don't need to download the application. It will actually just load in the browser. So you see, I just have a tab open. I'm not actually opening any app on my computer. So it takes, generally speaking, about 30 seconds to 45 seconds, maybe a minute to open at first. And that's just in order to spin up the session. But once it's loading, once it's ready, then you can just add images to it very quickly. So looking back at my inspection, here's the image that I opened. And then you can see it in Inspection Manager. So it's a 3D PM photo. You know, we didn't do any measurement while we were performing the inspection, but I can do a measurement on it after the fact. So maybe I want to, let's say we had a plane on this blade. Let's add a point to line measurement. I'm just going to do a very, very rough point to line measurement. So Jeff, please spare me. All right, here we go. Here's a measurement. Maybe we can view the point cloud. You know, take a look if this is a good measurement. You see, I can do all of this. This is all just in the browser right here. You know, so once I've maybe captured my image and I like this view better, I can save it. And then let's save a copy of this image. Save it with a flag. If I want to, I can also open additional images from my session in here. So I've already got this one open, but let's open maybe this picture as well. And this one. If we go back to that home, here's those other images that I open. So we can do the same thing here. Add a measurement plane. I won't do a full measurement, but you know, you can move it around and manipulate it. And then when you're done here, just make sure that you end your session. So I can go to Profile, End Session, and any of those images will be saved back to InspectionWorks here. So it's a really nice feature. The use case that we see a lot for this is where you've got an inspection team performing an inspection. They might not necessarily do a measurement on damage right there, but after the fact, an engineering team might want to add a measurement on top of the image, or maybe just re-verify a measurement. You can do all of that remotely without needing to capture new images. So it's kind of nice. Some of the other features that we touched on was around analytics. So we briefly mentioned the two different analytics models when we were looking at the MDI here. So we have the gas power assist analytics for detecting defects, and then we have the blade counter analytics for counting blades. So I have some slides open. Unfortunately, I don't have an engine in front of me, so I can't show it live, but let's take a look at these slides right here. So here's an example of the blade counter running on the Borescope. So you will just need to give it an index. So you just need to index which blade is blade number 1. And then from there, when you turn through the stage, it will just mark all of the blades and put a box around them and tell you which blade number you're on as you're doing the inspection. If we move forward, this is also integrated with our with the Reinstall turning tool. So you can control the Reinstall turning tool through the MVIQ Plus. You can run the blade counter at the same time. So this is just an example video of that working. So this next one is the gas power assisted defect recognition model. So here's a video right here of the gas power assist running. And this is actually a video of our older model, recently older. So the latest version is 5.0, and this is a video of gas power assist 4.1. So what you're seeing in this video, the current version's even better than that. So the current version's trained on just over 35,000 images, and you can see as we're spinning through this stage, it's putting boxes around what it identifies as defects, and we're running the blade counter at the same time. So it's counting the blades and identifying defects. And you also have the ability here where if maybe you decide you don't want any inspectors to potentially rely on this too much, you can turn off these boxes and just have it to where there's this yellow outline on the screen when you're seeing a defect. So if it notices there's a defect on the screen, it'll put that yellow outline, but it won't show you exactly where it is. That's just one of the settings that we have. All right, so I'm looking through my list of things to cover. We have now covered downloading the MDI builder, creating MDIs, deploying them, doing an MDI inspection, seeing it in inspection works, reviewing it, creating a report and sharing that around. I think that's about everything that I had on my list. Does anyone have any questions on any of this or anything you would like to go deeper in? All right. I guess Jeff, Megan, is there anything you think I should touch on a little bit more?
No, I think from my side, this was great. If anyone has any questions for Isaiah on anything covered today or Jeff on general MVIQ or Mentor Flex questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and we can spend some time talking about them. But I don't know if Jeff, you wanted to add anything?
No, I think that covered what we needed to cover with inspection works. I think especially with MDI, we're getting much more traction. More and more people are using it, as well as inspection works. I think Isaiah had a major installation of inspection works with a commercial airline this week, and we're making more and more progress towards it being a universal platform there.
Yeah, definitely. Good point, Jeff. And that customer also, they started on a free account of Inspection Works, and they used that to pilot the platform. So definitely, if you're on this call, if you haven't already, create a free account for Inspection Works. Try it out. Megan is going to send out some of the slides, so some slides that cover what we just went over today. And on the very last slide, there's a page, or I think second to last slide. It's got a bunch of links for resources. So it's got a link to download the MDI builder, a link to the instruction manual for how to use MDI builder, and then it's got the link to create an Inspection Works account, and then it's got a link to the getting started guide for Inspection Works. So that shows you how to do push to IW on the Borescope, review inspections, create reports, and all that good stuff. So there's a lot of resources available for you that Megan is going to send, but if you have any questions or if you need help making MDIs or anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can either help you or get you pointed in the right direction. But yeah, we're here to help and we're available. So I really appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. As Isaiah mentioned, we'll be sharing the slides and the recording hopefully later today or early tomorrow. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right, bye.